I want to take you through a couple of the new features that I ended up working through, and I'm kind of looking for feedback on these. So the first one is what we're going to do is we're going to set up a new scene, but the first one is viewport support. So viewport support is very similar to the viewports within AutoCAD. In its properties, it essentially has the special name view, and what you'll see is that this view essentially maps to this view down here. The data of this viewport is really controlled by the view that we have over here. So I can either update it here or I can update it here in order to change that view. The one thing that's interesting is essentially the scale side of things. The scale side of things allows me to essentially scale the entity and be able to draw in the viewport and have the dimension auto scale down appropriately or auto scale up appropriately. So this is a nice feature because obviously even though you have scaled your model, you need to essentially be able to scale the dimensions as well. The other thing about a viewport is, yes, the entities or the snaps do work for the entities, but you cannot select or move anything in here other than the things that you've drawn outside of or on top of the viewport. Viewports are just normal entities, so if I move it, this dimension has now kind of disconnected, and it should show the old value. It's not going to update and show a new value that is not in there. So that is something that is a caveat. So in this case, if I wanted to be able to change what I'm looking at, I can do it a couple different ways. One of them is adjusting the center, and I can essentially use this or either type it in manually. So I think, I got to make a bigger change than that. But essentially I can go that. I can move it this way. Another way that I can do it is to essentially click on this and update the view. So if I do that, based off of what I'm currently zoomed in as, will determine and set the zoom and the center point based off of this. So if I want to zoom in here, get this be the viewport, I can zoom in, look at it, understand it, and click update. So now when you go back to the viewport, you'll see that. Or I can be zoomed out here and update the viewport as well, or really the scale and the center point. Now, one of the disadvantages of this, or one of the caveats of this, is the fact that when you're zooming in and you're setting that viewport and you're updating the view, you don't have a good I wouldn't say a good zoom level that you can see from here as far as I know. So that is something that could be added in the future. So let's go ahead. I want to show you one extra thing about viewports. Since viewports are containers, I'm going to go ahead and create a viewport or VP layer. I'm going to go ahead and move the viewport into the VP layer. And then I can essentially not print the VP layer. And what that will do is I will be able to see the box within the viewport, but when I go to plot it, the viewport will not be plotted there, but the entities within the viewport will be. And I'll show you that in the future. So let's go through the next feature that I ended up creating. And this is a wanted feature, which is layouts. So this is layouts or paper space, whatever you want to call it. But it essentially, there's a couple things to talk through about this. So I essentially set up my paper space in here. I hit OK. I zoom in. And now together with the model view, which is in a separate tab, in my layout in a separate tab, now I can essentially use viewports to print out my model in the viewport. Now, what you'll notice is that the entity is here. You can't really see it. So this is in the VP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the color to orange. And I should be seeing it. Why am I not seeing it? It's because this is not at the center point. So the reason why that happened is because my center point is 0, 0, which would be here. So I'm essentially looking at 0, 0 here, and the model corner is at 0, 0. So now everything's kind of aligned. I can go in here and do exactly what I did before. Let's zoom in. Update. Go back to here. And let's scale this back down. Let's add in a circle. And now you can do all your dimensioning within this layout. So let's go through and update this. And we'll leave that for now. So what I want to do is I want to take you through the next kind of feature of this. So let's just double check. We are orange. We're on the VP layer, which is correct. We're not plotting, but we are showing the viewport layer. So now what I've done is I've essentially override the print screen. So now you don't have the print layout. What you get is a direct file to print mechanism. So this, I don't remember exactly how this is configured, but essentially this will go straight to this file. So let's go ahead and print. This already exists because I've been testing it. And then let's go through. And there's a start. Now, why is my circle not here? Let's just double check. It's probably because when I drew the circle, I was on the VP layer. Let's double check. Yep, that's exactly right. So let's go back to here. Print. And there we go. And it's going to be the same issue for this. This was on the VP layer as well. Let's print. And there you go. So you get paper space. Now, I want to go ahead and save this. We'll just save this as test, 4444 for right now. The next feature that I want to show is support for Xrefs. So Xrefs are an interesting concept. I added this in because I thought it was fairly easy. And I understand the use cases with an AutoCAD. So one of the things that I'm still trying to learn is how best to utilize it with this workflow. And there's a couple different ways that I found that you could use it. So let's go ahead and open up my, let's use this file as reference to do and essentially draw paper space where the paper space has the dedicated layout. So in this case, this is my source drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new drawing. I'm going to go to my Xref panel, attach. We know that was test 2 because I can see it here. I can see the entity here. Now, one of the things that I chose, and I want feedback on this, is ultimately when I import these Xrefs, I import the exact layers that were part of the actual Xref drawing. So I can essentially hide them and do other things to them like I wanted. The other thing that I ended up doing is making them locked by default when I import the Xref, because it ends up being a little bit of an issue if I, for some reason, want to, there's just several kind of things that need to be watched out as part of that. So we can go through the exact same process to do the drawing. Let's do architecture. Let's do lay. Zoom in. We'll do VP. We'll draw out my Xref. You'll see it. We'll change the color to make it a little easier. Okay. And if I print right now, we'll do layout, and then I can see it, and there we go. So we see that everything's in there. Now, the interesting thing is I can essentially go back to here, and I can modify this, save it. So I can go back to here, which is my model space, which I see my Xref in, and I can now reload this file. So let's zoom out so we can actually see this. Let's actually zoom out farther. So now I can essentially go back to model space, go back to here, my source drawing. Let's modify this, save it, switch back to here, click on this, and I can either reload it or reload all Xrefs. And in that case, go back to my model drawing, and then you will see the it implemented within your model. Awesome. So let me kind of describe the process of how I've been doing this. I've essentially been vibe coding a lot of these features based off of kind of some wants and needs that I'm doing as I'm working through some of the architecture of my house. I just felt like these features were very helpful, and it allows me, I haven't really kind of stressed it far enough. There's still some bugs, but it has been working for some of my light tests. I don't have anything advanced at the moment. So I'm kind of looking for feedback around this, and I can definitely share out the branch if folks are interested. Or I can spend a little bit more time tweaking this, getting it the way that I think it should work, and share it out.